Hey everyone, just coming to you with this public service announcement. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it is the easiest way to make a podcast. So let me explain. First and foremost, it's free to do so. You don't got to come out of your pocket. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and a whole bunch of others platforms. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. That's why I got on it. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. All right, peace. Peace. We are back once again with Masterminds with Brother Shem. I am your host, Brother Shem, and I'm glad to be back with another episode. We have a lot to talk about today. First, before I get into today's topic, as always, I always want to, give thanks to my supporting listeners, my supporters who've been continuing to support and listen to me, share the information, share the links to the podcast. And I've gotten, a lot of people contacting me personally and just express their gratitude in reference to the information that I provide on this podcast. So I'm definitely grateful for your support. Absolutely. All throughout various parts of the world. I want to give a special shout out to my listeners in Ireland. I also have a growing listening audience base out there. So I want to give a special shout out to them for continuing to support Masterminds with Brother Shem. Also, I want to just take the time out because this is a special week in this time. Yesterday was the birthday of a very special man who did a lot of things for humanity, for the uplifting of fallen humanity. And that man is named Prophet Noble Drew Ali, who was born in the state of North Carolina in the year 1886. Yesterday, which is January 8th, was his birthday. So I just want to give, we celebrated, me and family, close people. There was a birthday celebration here in Durham, North Carolina. So shout out, honors to everyone who was able to attend. And of course, honors to Prophet Noble Drew Ali, who taught me so much, provided so much for so many people, for generations before me and generations to come. So that being said, I'd like to get to touch on some of his lessons, some of the things he taught, and get on to today's topic, which is the title of this show is called Man Knows Naught by Being Told. Man knows naught by being told. Now, before I get into it and I start reading from the Circle 7, which I always usually do as a point of reference, I like to say, and I've said this before, and I want to drive this home. Hopefully someone will catch it finally. A lot of people in the Moorish movement, the Moorish Divine National Movement, they misquote this quote. Now, this quote comes from the Circle 7. Man knows naught by being told. Naught is spelled Naught. I'll repeat. Naught. Naught. A lot of people will say man knows not by being told. Not. That is incorrect. That is not what was said, that is not in the Circle 7. And that is a totally different statement than to say man knows naught. Because to understand, according to the lessons, what naught is, and I'm going to read it, naught is falsehood. Falsehood is naught. And yet it is the manifest of right. So to say man knows naught by being told, what was actually being said is that man knows falsehood by being told. Saying that man knows not by being told implies that man doesn't know anything. It is saying here, when you say naught, it's not that he doesn't know anything, but that which he knows, he has knowledge of, is false information. It is a falsehood. It is an illusion. Okay? And we're really going to dive deep into the realm of illusion, falsehood, the matrix, as people like to say, or a lot of people are saying now, we live in a simulation. Okay, that's the new hot word for this time. So we're really going to dive into that. And so with that said, I want to go into chapter 7 of the Circle 7, which is entitled The Friendship of Jesus and Lamas. Jesus explains to Lamas the meaning of truth. So I'm only going to read a small portion of it, a small section of it, but I want to unpack that section in light of what took place just a few days earlier that the whole world is talking about. And people who know me know I try to keep my topics as general as can be, because I feel this information is so sacred, it's so valuable, so important, that it shouldn't be tainted by just daily trends or current events that are trivial. But this right here is not really as trivial as a lot of things we've seen, and it's important to touch on. So I'm going to address it. There's a lot of physical aspects to this, a lot of metaphysical, a lot of esoteric aspects to what took place. And I want to dive into that a bit and give my measure of understanding on it, give my portion of it. So in chapter 7, I'm going to start with verse 4, where it says, in all the world, there are two things. The one is truth, the other is falsehood. And falsehood is that which seems to be. Now, truth is aught and has no cause, and yet it is the cause of everything. Falsehood is naught, and yet it is the manifest of right. Whatever has been made will be unmade. That which begins must end. All things that can be seen by human eyes are manifest of aught, are naught, and so must pass away. The things we see are but reflexes just appearing, while the ethers vibrate so and so, and when conditions change, they disappear. I'm going to stop there. I could reread that section and I might go into certain parts of it. But the first part I want to go into is that particular statement where it says, all things that can be seen by human eyes are manifest of aught, are naught, and so must pass away. So from a metaphysical standpoint of that basically is saying that everything you see, and not only everything you see, everything that you perceive via your physical senses, your five senses, for those who are able to do so, seeing, hearing, taste, smell, feeling, physically feeling, is an illusion. All of it is an illusion. All of it is an illusion. You never seen anything. You never really heard anything. So all of it is illusion. And why is it an illusion? Because it is a manifest of art. It is a manifest of those finer substances that exist on the higher realm, which cause these things to appear. It's an appearance. The things we see are reflexes just appearing. So it appears that way. An appearance is not necessarily what it is. People appear to be certain things all the time. Oh, he appeared to be a nice guy. You know, a young woman gets with a guy, and at first they seem to be, you know, a gentleman and all of that. Well, he appeared to be nice, and then when you get with him, you know, as I've said before, they become a wife beater. Things of that nature. Everything is an appearance, but it's an illusion. And of course, I spoke about this in my episode called Power is an Illusion. I'll draw from that. Power is an illusion. A lot of things, the devil defined within Moor science. A lot of things ties in with what I've said in the past. But I want to drive home what we're seeing here. And I'm saying this to say to each and every one of you to drive this home. If you've gotten nothing else from what you witnessed the past few days and will continue to witness, is that the illusion is failing you. It has failed you. The simulation has failed you. The matrix has failed you. It's like a glitch that's the glitch in the matrix, right? Because many of us, some of you, well, let me put it like this. Some of you are gods, and don't get mad. It's in your Bible. Psalms 82 verse 6, right? For those who want to get hyper and get all sensitive about calling human beings gods. Some of you are gods, not all of you. Some of you are gods. And as gods, living in this third dimension and this plane of manifest, you've been conditioned to operate in the illusion by virtue of the fact that this world, just the plane of manifest, is a plane of illusion. That's what it is to have manifest. It's built off of manifest. In other words, to manifest means to be a byproduct of, to be the result of. It is the effect, not the cause. Right? Truth is art and has no cause. That which is the cause, the causeless cause, right, is the reality of what is. All that is. What you're dealing with is the projection. Everything is a projection to people. So we've been so caught up into it, we think because things have been pretty predictable in terms of society, that when we don't see it happen the way we normally process in our minds, because we've been conditioned throughout years and years, generation after generation, our parents' parents have all been conditioned a certain way to see things a certain way within society. When it don't work the way we talk about, we have these conversations where now we say, "Oh, this is not what I'm used to. This is not the country I know. This is not the government I know. This is not the people I know." You know what I'm saying? You never knew them. Newsflash, you never knew them. You only knew your perception of that. And now what's happening is that perception is being shattered. It's a mirror. It's a reflection that you put out, and that mirror has been shattered. So now what happens is there's people who are in shock. There's people who are flabbergasted. There's people who are outraged. There's people who are upset. How can this be? Even those of us who realize that this type of stuff go down, or is bound to go down, have been shocked or upset when it's an illusion. Some of us already knew this, and we're still playing into that game. It's all an illusion. And if those of us who are doing the spiritual work, who rise above on the higher realms in this, and again, drawing back from Chapter 7 of the Circle 7, once you have a clear conception or comprehension of that, right? Again, the difference between force and power. Power is an illusion. It is a manifest as a result of force, but naught. It is illusion, nothing more. Force changes not, but power changes as the ether changes, right? So knowing that, with that said about force versus illusion, you should know that all this was set to happen anyway, okay? Particularly when you have understanding of cycle ages, because the masters measure time by cycle ages, right? To partially quote, to give part of the quote by Prophet Noble Drew Ali, whose birthday just passed yesterday. He made a statement about the Bible, and he told his followers, don't throw away your Bibles. Now, there's another part of that, which I'm not going to say. For those, some of y'all who are listening know the quote. You know what I'm talking about. But for those who don't, if you want to know, go purchase the book. And I don't sell it. I'm not going to make money off of it. Go purchase the book, Oral Statements, Prophecies of Noble Drew Ali. You can look it up online. Y'all have to invest something, do some of the work. I'm not going to do it all for you. But when you know that other half of the quote, right, and then you see what happened before, up until this time, and you look into the Bible and you look into the book of Revelations in particular, and you see that you're living in the book of Revelations, because Revelations is a very metaphysical, esoteric book that most common people in religion on the exoteric side, i.e. your religious leaders, theologians, they don't speak on it. They don't go into it. They won't go into it on your average Sunday meeting. They're not going to go preach from that book. It's too powerful. It's too condemning. It's cutting. It will cut you. But to understand that and see what's happening now is to understand the context of the illusion of power, right? It's all a facade. It's just like the movie Oz, and shout out to Brother Panic. I know that he's going to drop a video soon about the science of Oz. But one of the things when you see the movie Oz is that the Wizard of Oz appears to be all this mighty, powerful person. But Dorothy was able to see who was behind the mask. And it was a scared little man, right? A lost man. But he exerted so much power behind the mask. The mask is the persona. The word persona is the Latin word meaning mask. So when people put on a persona, and you're going to see this when you see what took place, your world leaders, right? They have a persona that's attached to them, that is pushed through the media, right? And remember I told you, man knows naught by being told. Told is telling. Naught is the falsehood, the lie, right? Okay? And when you know everything that's seen, all things seen by human eyes, the vision of manifest the art or naught, and naught is the falsehood, then you have a better comprehension, or another level of comprehension of the word television. Tell lie vision. To tell the lie to the vision. Right? Tell lies to you visually. Right? Meaning, what does that mean? Are you saying that what took place on television a couple of days that the whole world is watching didn't happen? No. It happened. But what they tell you what it is it may not necessarily be what it is. You catch what I'm saying? And I'm not going to get into the whole political aspect of it. That's for another platform for that, in the social, the social political context of that. I do speak on that, but I'll use another platform to speak on that. Right here, I'm diving into the metaphysics and the esoteric aspect side of this. But one thing I will say is that when you have someone who is identified as the leader of the free world, which is the title, which is the term that is associated with the title of President of the United States of America, whether people accept that association or not is not as relevant as the fact that that has been associated with that title for so many years, for decades, if not centuries, in this context. When you have that, and that person who is looked from a world point of view, meaning through the scope or the lens of people throughout the world, are no longer looking at you with the same esteem, that is reflective of a bigger thing. So the question you have to ask yourself is this just happen to happen? Is this a circumstance? It's just, will this law govern all events? Was this designed? Was this on purpose? And if it was done on purpose, who designed it? Who set the stage for this to go down to this point? Because the average person are in shock. They would never think in a million years that this would happen. Not from those people. No. And that's what I mean by the illusion of power. Because the illusion of power presents itself as the illusion of being elite, being refined, right? I always also refer to the lessons of the 5%ers, the nations of gods and earths, where it talks about power refinement, right? Power refinement. So does having power make you refined? More civilized than the next person? Or is it that the power gives the appearance of refinement? Because power is an illusion. So you have to think about these things. And again, once we have an understanding that from this term that we're going into a new stage, right? And I'm going to get in a little later into a quote that Prophet Noble Drew Ali said in reference to the principles, the 5 highest principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice that must be adhered to, right? If we are to actually make it through this thing, okay? But I want to touch on something because I spoke on the subject of God, so I want to touch on this, right? This is important. So, as far as ascending, and this is where I talk about the illusion, there are many of us who are, involved in this the spiritual journey, doing the spiritual thing. Some people call it the New Age thing, whatever you have you, and they like to use the nice terms of chakras, kundalini energy, cosmic. We're cosmic, and we're transcending on, we're ascending to 5D and all these other different nice terms, using crystals and, astral plane and, whatever. And nothing wrong with that. because I get into that and I speak on that and teach on that as well. But a lot of it there's a lot of it that's done with a really nice approach, and many of us, and many people who are in it, I'll say, have a mindset thinking that every person who's a human being, who's recognized as a man, woman, and child in some extent, or man or mankind, because there's a difference between that. I'll get into that. That they are capable of ascending to the highest realms of spirituality. It's just in them. They just got to tap into that they have that capacity deep down inside. That's not true. I hate to bust a bubble, but that's not true. Okay? And how you know is simply by looking at humanity. Look at the things that people do. Some people do, and some people are capable of things that you can't even fathom in your mind, and you have to realize inside that they are not the same as you if you're not like that. Okay? There are people who look at what you do and say, oh man, I can't do what you do. You're too nice. You're too kind. I can't, It's not even in their nature. Some people can only have an earthly salvation, while others can have an earthly and divine salvation. And while there are some people who will listen to this and may not like to use the term salvation for one reason or another, maybe they think it's too religious, you can use whatever other words you wish to use. But the point of it is that in order to have a divine salvation, you must have a divine essence. Everyone doesn't have a divine essence. Some only have an earthly essence. Some are only earthbound, meaning they don't have that soul essence to transcend over into the higher realms. They can only go so high, even after physical death. Metaphysicians, the metaphysician knows this. The true metaphysician knows this. If you just new into this and you just starting looking at things on YouTube and stuff, you may not know this, but the true occultists, they know this information. They know. So I'm saying that to say some of you already know what I'm talking about, because some of this is also in the Circle 7, where it talks about the difference of those who had something prepared for them for their earthly salvation, and then there were those who had something prepared for them for their earthly and divine salvation. Now, I'm not going to give it all up. Sometimes you have to speak in parables. It said Jesus spoke in parables. So sometimes you have to speak in parables. But I'm putting it in that context. Right? You have man and you have mankind. Those are two different type of beings. Right? Mankind is actually kind of like man-like. Not quite. Right? Even in that famous statement about the landing of the moon, they say something to the effect of one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind, or something like that. So even there was a distinction made. There's a difference between man and mankind. So mankind has shown you that they are not all that you have thought them to be, or all that they have appeared to be, or made themselves out to appear to be, by virtue of the lower self. Right? We speak about the lower self. The lower self is the carnal self. And I'll briefly read from chapter 3 of the Circle 7, Elihu's Lessons, the Unity of Life. Starting with verse 5, there are two selves, the higher self and lower self. The higher self is human spirit clothed with soul made in the form of Allah. The lower self, the carnal self, the body of desires, is a reflection of higher self distorted by the murky ethers of the flesh. The lower self is an illusion and will pass away. The higher self is Allah and man and will not pass away. The higher self is the embodiment of truth. The lower self is truth reversed, and so is falsehood manifest. The higher self is justice, mercy, love, and right. The lower self is what the higher self is not. The lower self breeds hatred, slander, lewdness, murder, theft, and everything that harms. The higher self is the mother of virtue and the harmonies of life. The lower self is rich in promises, but poor in blessedness and peace. It offers pleasures, joy, and satisfying gain, but gives unrest, misery, and death. Now, when you continue on with chapter 3 of the Circle 7, it says, if you were ask me what to study, I would say yourselves. And when you well have studied them, and then would ask me what to study next, I would reply yourselves. Now, before I continue on with that, this is also another thing I want to point out. It's just a little pet peeve of mine. People always say, yeah, it says in the Circle 7, or it says in the Moorish Holy Quran, or the Prophet Noble Drali said, study yourself. You ask me what to study yourself. It doesn't say study yourself. It says study yourselves. Applying, which is referring to the higher self and the lower self. The two selves. How many cells are there? 2. Name them. Higher self and lower self. And you know this because he says, and when you have well studied them, not well studied it, right? Then would ask me what to study next, I would reply yourselves. Now, it goes further to explain in the next verse where it says, he who knows well his lower self knows the illusions of the world, knows of the things that pass away. And he who knows his higher self know Allah, knows well the things that cannot pass away. Right? So, again, it goes further and it makes a distinction of what it is to know the lower self and what it is to know the higher self. When you know your lower self, again, which is the carnal self, the body of desires, and is a reflection of the higher self. It's simply truth in reverse, and so his falsehood manifests, as we mentioned in chapter 7. Then you know the illusions of the world. You know the matrix. You know the matrix by studying your own lower self, because you are a microcosm of a macrocosm. As above, so below. As within, so without. The universe is mental. You catch what I'm saying? The universe is mental. So knowing that, right, is how deep it gets. Just knowing yourself, you're going to know this illusion. Just studying yourself, you're going to be able to peep the illusion as the illusion. But many of us don't study ourselves. We only are fixed or situated to gratify the lower self. We're all about gratification of the lower self. We've been programmed, we've been conditioned to just gratify the lower self. But you don't know your lower self, much less know your higher self. You don't even know your lower self. You don't even know how your body works, right? You don't even know how to build up your own immune system to fight off a virus. You don't even know that you're able to, through mind, breathing, etc., channeling of energy, able to fight off a virus if you feel it coming. You don't even know that much. You really think that if a virus comes and hits your body, that you have no other choice but to go to a doctor. No other choice but to go to a hospital. No other choice but to get a needle. I'm just going to say needle. I'm not going to use the other word. I ain't trying. You know, they shut you down for using that word. He said to Dad, yo, it's ill. But hey, that's how real it is, because there are those, even in the Bible, say we don't fight against flesh and blood, we fight against principalities in high places. There are those that want you to be in the fear vibration as opposed to the love vibration. That's how real it is. That's how real it is. And because of that, they got us all messed up, right? They don't realize how bad it is in this thing, okay? We have to be in the context, Prophet Noah Drill League gave us information in reference to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice that we need to deal with. And I just want to use one reference that's found in the Moorish literature, in particular, the editorial, A Divine Warning by the Prophet for the Nations. And I know there's many people who, don't subscribe to the Moor Science Temple of America, etc. But I think it's very important to listen to this and take the wisdom in these words and apply it to what's going on now. So it says, I'll just read this paragraph. It says, so there isn't but one supreme issue for my people to use to redeem that which was lost, and that is through the above statements. Then the lion and the lamb can lie down together in yonder hills, and neither will be harmed, because love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice will be reigning in this land. In those days, in the United States will be one of the greatest civilized and prosperous governments of the world. But if the above principles are not carried out by the citizens and my people in this government, the worst is yet to come. Because the great God of the universe is not pleased with the works that are being performed in North America by my people, and this great sin must be removed from the land to save it from enormous earthquakes, diseases, etc. etc. Right? Just stop right there. So Noble Drew Ali made a statement about love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice reigning in this land. Okay? And that was the only way by which you can be prosperous. If not, the worst is yet to come. Now, what did we just say? What does the lower self breed? Hatred, slander, lewdness, murders, death, and everything that harms. So when you have a mentality, a mindset of people who operate from the lower self, thus you have the hatred, you have the slander, you have the lewdness, you have the murders, the death, and everything that harms. What just took place? People died. There was hatred. There was slander. There was lewdness. There was theft. Everything that happened, everything that is listed as a manifest or a byproduct of the lower self, you saw. If you was watching the television or on the internet, you saw it. Everything that harms was the man. That's nothing but the lower self. And in the Moor's questionnaire, you have the question, what people represent the lower self? Those who were cast out of the holy city and those who accept their teaching, right? So we're talking about this is a spiritual war. Now, what's so interesting about it is that even the many people who consider themselves religious or religious leaders, I've heard a few, or a couple, and they are they too have a carnal mindset or carnal perception, carnal commentary on this whole thing, right? Which lets you know, okay, I thought you was about, vengeance is the Lord. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord, and all that stuff. But he said they're not really about that. They may preach it to you, but they're not really about it. They're not about love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. They're still on carnal time, right? And when I say carnal time and all that, love, truth, peace, freedom, justice, I'm not talking about being a punk. I'm not being a chump, being past of a weak. But knowing, it's a knowing, right? An elephant doesn't go to battle with a gnat. Elephant doesn't go to battle with a gnat. I told you I'm going to use some parables. You know what I'm saying? The gnat may be thinking it's doing something, but the elephant don't go to battle with a gnat. If it knows it's an elephant, the only way an elephant would fight a gnat is it has to not realize that it's an elephant. If you don't know that you're God, then of course you're going to have a human fight. That's my point. You know what I'm saying? You're going to have a human fight. In chapter 46 of the Circle 7, verse 8, it reiterates what I spoke about that's mentioned in the Moorish literature. In that editorial I spoke about, where it says, the lamb is the poor people, the lion is the rulers of the rich, and through love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, all men are one and equal to seek their own destiny and to worship under their own vine and fig tree, after the principles of the holy and divine laws of their forefathers. All nations of the earth in these modern days are seeking peace, but there is but one true and divine way that peace may be ordained in these days, and it is through love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice being taught universally to all nations in all lands. It has to be taught universally to all nations in all lands. This podcast is broadcast and listened to in multiple countries, not just the United States, though most of the people who listen are from the United States and live in the United States of America. But I already shouted out Ireland. I have listeners in United Kingdom, Australia, Canada, Germany, Spain, Nigeria, where else? Grenada, Panama, Singapore, Philippines, Russia, South Africa, France, Barbados, Belize. Like, this is a universal message that has to be taught. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, that's my point, is a universal message. And a lot of people, may have wondered why I use, because I am a member of the Moor Science Temple of America. I'm a Sheikh, Assistant Grand Sheikh in the Moor Science Temple of America. Why I speak the way I speak, and I'm very general in my approach, though I do draw from my literature that I teach out of and study. I don't say things that maybe other people who are part of this movement use. And it's because I know that this is a universal message. I know who my tribe is. I know who my nation is. Tribe, a lot of people use that term tribe, part of your tribe. I know who my nation is. I know who my people are, and that I come to my people, similar to was said in the book of John, Gospel according to John, in chapter 1, where it says, he came unto his own, and his own received him not, but as many as came unto him, to them he gave power to become the sons of God. Now, I'm not saying I'm Jesus, but I'm saying I know that I come first to my own. Charity starts at home, right? But this is a universal language. This is a universal message. So I have to be able to craft this message where even people who are not part of my nation, not part of my tribe, can get the essence of the message, and it can benefit them. Everyone, we would like for everyone to live in love, true peace, freedom, and justice. And as I said before, we know everybody will not be that. Everybody will not do that. But as many as can, possibly can, I will push that. I will promote that. I will always promote those principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, because that love is the savior. Love is the savior. And that's what you have to realize. That's the realization people have to come to. Because the other thing, the reverse of that, you already see what's happening with that. We already seen that. That happened live on television for the world to see. Some people are so narrow-minded, so closed-minded. They only think in terms of their immediate circle. And it only matters that. They don't realize that the world is watching. I always wondered, well, not really wondered. I always found it peculiar when it came to my attention that, a lot of times the Americans, quote unquote, and there's a whole big thing about Americans, because Americans it's not just people in the United States of America. That's just one country. America is a region, not a country. But that's a whole different stuff. There's North and South America. I'll just put it like that. But the term of people who are classified as Americans, the people who are classified as the Americans, are viewed with disdain from time to time, in other countries, depending on the country they're at, and depending on the time that you're in. Like in this time, keep it funky. Americans aren't placed on the top of the list as far as being respected. That's just being honest. But there are those who feel that is the case and should always be the case and has always been the case, and that's not reality. That is not reality. They're in their own bubble. Now, without getting too far into the social-political aspects of this, I say that to say that is dealing also with the illusion, okay? And the scientist, the Moor scientist, the metaphysician, the person who deals with the esoteric aspects of things, knows that this is because these principles, these divine universal principles, are not being applied. When you gratify your lower self, you become self-centered. And in becoming self-centered, right, you now are prone to cause harm. And you will think you're doing right in causing harm. As you just saw, the people who caused harm, and this ain't about which side is which side caused more harm than the other. The people who set out to cause harm thought they were doing right, believed they were doing right. That's why you always have these heated debates. Because the people who are debating, it's not that they don't it's not that they don't think that, what they're doing is right. They believe what they're doing is right. They believe that they're right. They believe that what they say is the right way. They've been conditioned. They've been taught this. On either side. It doesn't matter which side you choose from an outsider. Know that whatever the person say, whatever they advocating, they believe in what they advocate. Now, you do have exceptions. You do have those who may play a charlatan role and just are out to present a certain thing just to appease a certain group of people to get their support. You have that too. But talking about the average people who be that's what you saw. You saw a lot of average people. You didn't see a high elite people in action today. Well, I'm sorry, a couple of days ago. You saw average people who really fed into whatever hype they fed themselves up on. Right? And I'm not saying that in a judgmental fashion. I'm saying this from a metaphysical perspective. From an owl's perspective, or a bird's eye view of the owl, with the owl mind, the mind of the owl, the owl brain as opposed to the reptilian brain. Okay. And as I mentioned before, there are those who have, there are those who are not supposed to ascend. Sometimes chickens do come home to roost. Told you I'm going to use metaphors. It's true. That's an old Southern saying. But sometimes chickens do come home to roost. It is what it is. It is what it is. And what you have to acknowledge in that, right, is the study of self. Because for those who have been listening to this podcast and podcasts like this one, and have been really doing the work, working on themselves, studying themselves, their higher self and their lower self, they know it's something or if they don't fully know and fully comprehend, there's something in them that's telling them, they got just a hint that this is all an illusion. What you're dealing right now, this is an illusion for real. And to know, once you know it's an illusion, you won't be affected by it. You should not. But then that comes into the work on yourself and work on your emotions. That is our biggest obstacle, is our emotions. Everything you're seeing now on the television is displays of emotion, energy and motion. And that's based on desire, carnal desire. And the body of desires is the lower self. It's an illusion. So this is very important to realize. For us who are on this path, the spiritual path, to do this work, we have to be diligent in self-examination to raise our consciousness and to break past that barrier of the matrix, if you will. I don't like to use the word matrix too much because it got cliche, but it does adequately describe. It does adequately describe what we're witnessing now. It's a matrix, and there's a glitch in it. So once you can see it and rise above it on the higher planes of vibration, and you can do that work, you won't be affected by the swing of this pendulum, because that's all it is a pendulum on this plane of manifest, plane of things made manifest. The manifestation is the magic work, if you will, right? Making things appear, making things disappear. It all boils down to the work on your mind, the subconscious mind, the conscious mind, and the superconscious mind. Those 3 levels. Again, we're getting back to 3 again. 3 is the magic number. Doing this work will allow us to move through this and not be harmed, right? Just to brings it mind to thought, or brings us thought to mind in reference to how powerful the mind is. Just to give you an example, as I speak on this podcast about the power of the mind. So, I'll give you a personal example. So, for example, my wife, she has an energy about her where she can go out, right, by herself. She's never afraid. She doesn't operate off of fear. She operates off of love, where even she'll go in there'll be times and situations where she's just out and about and I'm not there and I'm worried about her, right? And then she'll come home and she'll always come home with a smile on her face. And I'll be like, and it hits me, right, that she has an energy and a vibration that she puts out that makes it virtually impossible for ill fate to happen. Okay? Right? Now, there's always a chance that cannot be the case, but then you have, on the flip side, you have people who go out the door with the expectation of something wrong happening, because they've been conditioned in their mind that the world is set to do them harm. So they come with the expectation, and then sure enough, something happens. That's how powerful the mind is. That's how powerful the mind is. But the mind that creates your heaven and your hell is linked closely with your emotions. And it's your emotions that kind of basically fuel the thought, right? It's fuel for the fire, so to speak. The passions, right? So controlling the emotions by way of thought will in turn control the thoughts. It works hand in hand. In other words, your emotional state will be predisposed, if you control it, to make sure that your thoughts are of a positive vibration, of a positive nature. Change it from the negative to the positive. Change your emotional state. That's why it's good to do certain things to have you in a good mood. Because you can't have I've said this before, you can't be in a good mood and have bad thoughts, and you can't be in a bad mood full of good thoughts. Can't be in a good mood having full of good thoughts, and did I say that right? Can't be in a bad mood being full of good thoughts, and you can't be in a good mood full of bad thoughts, right? If you have a bad mood, you'll have bad thoughts. If you have a good mood, you'll be full of good thoughts. So I think I tripped myself up on that. Hope I didn't. But anyway, my point of it is keep your vibrations high. Control your mood, be in a good mood, have good thoughts. And there are techniques to do that. Like we talked about the meditation, etc. And I will be going more and more in depth when I finish up my online course, the Meta Mind Mastery, which you can catch on my website, Shem.com. You can go there, Shem.com, Sheml.com. Okay, let me get it right. Sheml.com, which is SHEM-EL.com. That's SHEM-EL.com. You can go there now live. You can get a free course a free lesson, I should say, a free lesson right now. And when I complete the course, you'll be able to access the course. We'll show you how to do that. Get my podcast there right now. You have my books. Everything else is also there as well. And once again, thank you all for your continued support. And until the next time, when we meet again, peace and love.